All right, friends, I am going to be working today on starting this painting of the three pigs. I've already put an outline onto my paper, which you can see if you look at one of my other videos. And here's my process. I take the picture and I put it on my big iPad here or on my computer or whatever else I have handy, my phone if that's all I have handy, and I keep it right next to me so that I can keep looking back at the picture. Okay, so I'm gonna put it right up here out of camera view, but just know I've got it where I can see it very clearly. Actually, I may put it over here to the side of my table. All right, so I have my outline here. I have some water. I do use distilled water. I'm not exactly sure if it makes a difference, but I read somewhere that it would flow better with distilled water. So I was like, okay, I can try that. So I've got some distilled water in a cup. I have an extra cup handy just for when this gets dirty, or if I need clean water really for something. And then I have just my normal palette that I use. This is not a palette that you can like go out and buy. I have put this together. Well, okay, you can buy the pieces. I bought the metal part at Dick Blick along with the empty half pans to go in it. And then I filled them with the colors that I like to use. Although there are a few in here that I'm like, I really don't use those very often, and I might end up switching them out with something else eventually. I definitely have certain colors that I use a lot more of than others. So I will try to identify the colors that I'm using as I go through here so you can kind of see what I have in mind. This picture is on Pixabay. So if you want to look at it, the user that has uploaded it is Heidelbergerin. Must be German. Heidelbergerin. So I'm sure if you search pigs, it'll also come up. All right, so my first step when I'm personally doing any animal is I look at the animal, whatever, and I start to put in just some undertones, shall we say. I'm not going to do much of any detail at this particular stage. What I am going to do is I'm going to wet the whole pig. So I'm going to do these one pig at a time. So I'm going to start with this pig. I've got a large number 14 round here. And I won't be doing a lot of other painting with this brush on this painting, but it is good for wetting a larger area. If I tried to wet it with like a little number 6, it would take forever. It'd be dry by then. So I'm just wetting this little pig here. I want the paper wet, but I don't want puddles of water. So you have to start to learn how much water to really put on there. I'm going to go all the way to the edge of the paper, even though I know that I will end up matting this smaller. It will cover up some of that, but that's okay. If you don't like that some of it would get covered up, then you may want to mark on your paper ahead of time. Look, this is where the mat will go, so I only need to go this far. But I prefer to just paint to the edge on this kind of thing. All right, so my piggy is all wet, and just looking at him here, he's got a lot of pink tones through here, over the eye, in the ear, down here, and so I'll lay some pink in there. He's got reddishy orange fur going on here, and he's got these dark spots. So all I want to do is make hints of those colors. So for example, in the dark spots, I'll put in some of this color, which is called, this is Daniel Smith's Moon Glow. Okay, and I'm just dropping, it's not particularly dark, okay? And remember, your paint should be, or your paper should be nice and wet. So it's just gonna spread out naturally. It's not gonna leave a really distinct border. This is a little purpley almost, but it's just the undertones. It's just giving me a little bit of a hint of what the color is. And it helps when I come back later because it shows me where those dark spots are a bit. But it also, if I have areas that show, like I don't cover them completely, then I can tell it won't just show the white of the paper. I'll get more of this lighter tone coming through, so it gives me a better like shadow. Okay, and the reddish color, I'm gonna use burnt sienna. Burnt sienna I use in almost every animal I paint. Very common color for me. And burnt sienna is for this red, so I'm going to put some of that in up here along the top of his face where I see red, and he's got some just right here on the edge. And there's just a touch of it down here under his face, but it's really light, so I'm gonna really work that in like this. And know too, I'm putting this in lightly, and it's gonna dry even lighter than what I'm putting in. So these will be really light colors. All right. I don't really want it on this ear. I'm gonna wipe it off the ear because the ear is really light. All right, now there are some pinks in this piggy, and for the pink, I generally don't like to use like pink, because, let me get a piece of scrap paper here. I will use this panda that was horrific. Okay, ignore the panda. All right, so I have a color on my palette here called Opera Pink. It's so pretty sometimes, but it's really pink. Actually, it has a little bit of blue mixed into it just because it's dirty, but that is like a pink. That is not what color that pig is. And I have Quin Rose. That's not what color that pig is either. Oh, look. I got a dab on my paper. Darn it. I'm going to dab that up now. And it's still left a little bit of a mark, and I can show you later how to fix that. Opportunities. Okay. I also have a color up here. Quin Red, another color that I use a whole lot of. And if it weren't contaminated with phthalo blue right now, it would give me more of a red. So taking a minute to clean it out. All right, so that's like, whew, even if I lighten it up, it's still not the pink that pig is. So that being said, the color I like to use for pinks on animals most of the time, not always, most of the time, is I take some yellow ochre. I've got that down here, and then I take either some of my Quin Red or some alizarin crimson, and I mix that into the yellow ochre. And what that gives me is almost a peachy color. Pulling my ugly panda back here again. If I put this next to these pinks, it's a more earthy color, almost like a skin tone. And if I want it more pink, I just add a little more of the Quin Red to it, and then it's going to be a more pinky peach. And then if it got too pink, I just take more of the yellow ochre. You know, you just keep blending until you get the mixture that you think is like the right combination. And don't worry about getting one color into another one of the watercolor pans. You just wipe it off later. Not a big deal. So Piggy, I talked for too long and Piggy is getting a little dry. So I'm just gonna wipe. I'm gonna put a little more water on his pink areas here. They're not too dry. And that's almost too wet. Let me pick up a little bit of that. Okay. So now I just want a little bit of this peach, and I really only want a little bit. Okay, I want a hint of this pinky color on him. I don't want him to look like a Wilbur pink pig. Okay, we get his little nose. And this area up here has pink, and under his chin, and even up in here. This whole area has kind of an undertone of pink to it, so I'm just laying in the pink. Okay, now he looks like an interestingly rainbowed pig. That's fine. That's kind of what we're going for right now. All right, next I'm going to do this pig on this side because some of these areas are still wet and I don't want to touch them with the water. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to wet this pig. And my water is a tiny bit pinky, so I'm going to put my cleaner water over here. Use that for wetting. Pretty much just want to get the whole pig wet. There's an ear sticking up here that's from the other pig. Going around that. Okay. Good. So now I look at the colors that I have on this pig, and I see I've got pink on his nose, mainly like the center of his nose. And it's fairly pink in that middle of this guy's nose. He's got a little lip down here that's pink too. And he's got pink in his ears. And I let that get fairly pink, but if you feel like it's too much, again, you just wipe off your brush and lift up what color you thought was too much. See how much I pulled up there? And if I go, I wanted that more pink, then I can just pull some of it from its neighbor over there and I have it more pink again. I actually want this area a little less pink. And that top area doesn't need to be quite so pink. So you see it's easy to adjust that color while you still have it wet. All right, this pig is mainly, he's like white and black with some brown thrown in. Yeah, so let's do some of that moon glow on his darker areas. like in here. Pull some more moon glow out. And he's got a dark spot kind of running up his face here. And this ear is pretty dark, particularly in that section. And then coming over here. And there's more dark up here. I don't want all of this area to be moon glow though, because he actually has like black and brown mixed in together. So I'm gonna kind of put in where I see the black, and then I'm gonna come on back and put some of that burnt sienna in where I see the brown, because that's a better underlay color for me for the brown. Let me get some burnt sienna, and I'm going to add that in here, and it's going to kind of blend with the other. That's okay. Don't freak out. These are just undertones. This is just helping me a little bit with almost like a roadmap as I go to paint this guy later. Got more of that brown on his ear because this ear is dark. Okay, he's got some real light brown around here and around his eye, and here around his face, this area. He's got some of it going on down here. All right, now middle pig. Now you can see still a lot of this is still really wet. I'm going to try to avoid that. I don't want to touch it, but my other pig is dry, so I don't need to be too fussy about not touching him. Because with watercolor, the paint will go wherever the paper is wet, the paint will try to spread to. So when I put down color for the middle pig, I don't necessarily want it to spread over to the side pig. It might not be the same colors. Sometimes it's fun to let the paints bleed, and sometimes you do that on purpose. This is not one of those occasions. So I'm going to leave just a little bit of a white line between that area, since it's not dry yet. Get this little section over here. Okay. Again, trying to leave just a little bit of a line between middle pig and the right pig. Okay, let's go up this ear. And it helps to look at it from the side to see the glare of the water. That tells you where it's getting too dry or where there might be a puddle that you want to get rid of. All right, so middle pig is mainly very orange. He has a very orangey look to him. And so I'm mainly going to be putting down burnt sienna with some black spots, and he also has some pinky areas. So I'm wetting some burnt sienna and pulling it down to my little wells here. So I have it to pull from. Okay, and his whole face is very orange except for a couple of dark spots, but his ear is not. So I'm not going to get his ear. Come down here, kind of get around where his nose is. Up here. And even the top curve of his ear is orange. I say orange, it's not true orange. I'm not pulling out like a transparent orange and sticking it on here. This burnt sienna gives a much more natural orange. More like red hair, you know? Okay. Now the back part of the piggy doesn't show up as orange. It's the same color, it's just the light on it is different. So we're not getting quite as bold of a orange, so I'm not going to put it in as dark. And he's got a bunch of black spots, which we're going to lay in just a minute here. See, I can put that moon glow right on top of the orangey color that I'm doing, and it'll still show up. So I don't have to worry about like not covering that. All right, let's do the next light color, which is the pinky color. And we're going to get his nose, which has kind of dried off, so I'm actually going to re-wet this real quick. Okay. So we want some pink, and we actually want pink here around his eye too. So pink around the eye, pink in this nostril area. Pink up here in his ear. Okay, that's all the pink. And now I need the darker color to put in the kind of darker spots. Like there and there. He's got a little darker going on right under his ear here. Here's one. Here's one. I kind of have them marked out on the paper so that I had an idea where I was going with the dark spots. There, 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 and there, going down to the other peak. Okay. Oh, I see one more. Right in here. So now you can see some of this is already drying, and this pig is considerably lighter than when I painted him. It's very pastel, and this pig, you can see all of that is also lightening up quite a bit. It's just hints of color I'm putting in here first, and this just starts to define the colors, and it gives me that under layer of color so that it isn't just white. I'm going to stop there for the moment. This needs to dry. So we can see now the pigs have dried, and at this point I just start putting in more detail. I don't really have a formula for like what I work on first or anything like that. I just kind of start working it. And so let's see. I'd like to lay in some of the more shadowed areas so that they fall back a little bit, and that'll help me see some depth in these piggies. So like, I'm gonna take some Payne's Gray and put it over here. And again, I'm gonna keep this fairly light. These are gonna need to go darker, but the underside of the pig here is shadowed. I'm gonna blend that up into the pig. Okay. That's pretty much true of all the pigs. All of them have a under area. Like this one even has a kind of separate space here. But his nose is not very shadowed because it sticks out more. Shadow kind of under it. And then kind of up around here, because again that nose is sticking out, it's shadowed. Generally anything you make darker gets pushed back in the painting, and anything that you make lighter seems to come forward, generally. Okay, and this piggy, he's got kind of the shape here coming down, that's his head. It's like his cheek, but then behind that, there's more of him back here. He's got this wattle kind of sticking out. It's kind of dark around the wattle. And then this whole area back here is very dark. And it's going to blend into this shadow that's on the ground. Got hairs that come down from this, so we'll probably be putting some of those in with some gouache because they need to go over top of that shadow. And I find it rather tricky to try to reserve the light for just little hairs like that. The top part of this wattle is more shadowed. Okay, and then continuing under his little face. Shadows in. Okay. And I can start to put some details, like I know that this little section here of his mouth is black. Sometimes putting a little bit of that in helps me to see the rest. there's a dark shadow that goes behind him. I'm not sure I want to put that in yet. At some point, I just start picking an area and work on it. So let's say I want to start working on this part of the pig. His nose is going to be tricky because it's pink, but it's also got like shaded areas that go in and lighter areas that are coming out. And it's got some dark, it's got all kinds of like colored sections on it. And let's see, you know, this under part, it's still pink, but it's pretty well, it's so much in shadow that it's like a purpley pink. So I'm going to take some moon glow and put it in there. Fine line between still making it look pink, but being pink in shadow. And it's darker along the bottom than it is along the top. There's almost like a highlight on the top. I'm gonna see if I can lift up just a little bit there. All right, and this section here is kind of the same color. I'm gonna come in there and make it that purpley pink. I'm gonna go ahead and work it up into these areas, even though I'm gonna cover that up with another color in a minute. All right, now I'll blend that a little bit. I still think, even though it's purpley pink, that it needs a little more pink in there. All right, so this section over here is actually like a black. So I've got black, but I want to add some moon glow to it because that'll make it a little less solid. Anyway, I'm using moon glow and neutral tint. And I want to pay attention to the fact that there's a highlight up here. It follows this highlight on top of the nose around. So I want that to stay light. And I'm not touching that section because I don't quite want all of this to blend in right now. All right, I'm gonna use some of that moon glow. Put it in here where the little nostrils are. But not only that, there's like a darkening that comes down from those nostrils and up here. And I still feel like this is too distinct. Didn't know so much went into a little piggy nose, did you? All right, let's see. This is on top of the highlight. Highlight goes around the nose like that. Should also know there are times when your painting just looks bad. When you look at it and go, wow, I messed that up. And maybe you did, but maybe you didn't. Maybe it's totally fine. There are many times that I've looked at one and been like, okay, well, this is ruined forever. And then I keep at it and keep at it. When I get done with it, I'm like, huh, actually it wasn't. How about that? Trick is to keep at it, even when you think maybe it's ruined. These colors are going to have to darken. I'm grabbing a smaller brush, around 2, because I kind of want to put in some of these wrinkles. So like, right, coming up off of there, there's this wrinkle here. Immediately I'm going to take a clean water brush and I'm going to blend that up. But with every layer of blending up, I'm going to wipe it off because I want it blended, but I don't want it to go too far. Okay. And looks like we got another little wrinkle right there. I'm going to do the same thing. Come back in there and blend that edge. There are very few lines on an animal that are like truly straight, hard lines. They just don't really exist. Turn this over a little bit. blending that little wrinkle line. And let's see, there's another one here. And there's one coming in over here. I feel like they're almost a little too straight. I need some to go more wiggly. All right. Now, the area right behind the highlight. That's where it up. It's got to be darker. And All right, I've literally only worked on this little tiny section of the piggy, but I need a break. So we'll be back. All right, coming back to my little piggies here. Pretty much gonna continue to fiddle with this nose a little bit. I think it's still got a little ways to go before I'm gonna really be happy with it, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. Pretty common really for me to have to keep fiddling away at little bits of a painting. Trying to keep my head out of the camera, but I have a feeling that I'm sticking my head in the camera more than I am intending to. I would encourage you, if you're painting something like this, to take some time to walk away from your work and to look at it from a different angle, because sometimes we're looking at it up close so much that we lose all perspective of what it actually looks like. And you might look at it from a little farther away and you're like, oh, that does look like a nose. You know, you lose sight of it. So I would really suggest that you try to look at it from back up a bit. Get some perspective. That's all I'm saying. Adding a little bit more of a yellow ochre tone there because I felt like it was losing the warmth and looking cold. So trying to add that warmth back. And I still want to make sure that the darkest part of the nostril is up here. This one, we've got this lip that turns away, so I need a shadow there to show that that's almost like separate and the nostril kind of goes out. Now, this area right under the lip, it's also part of this dark shadow. Grab a bigger brush for the moment. Blend that shadow in. I'm gonna come back to that nose probably, but for now, I want to move on a little bit. So let's see. I want to look at this section here above his nose. And he's kind of got some brown and some black in this area. So what I'm going to do is what I like to do to make hair, or fur really is what we're going for here. Find the brush I want here. This is a number 2 rigger brush. So I'm going to pull that. I'm going to grab some of this red burnt sienna, and I'm going to get some Van Dyke brown. It's a darker brown. Put some of that down here. Grab a little more of that burnt sienna down here. And I'm going to pick up some neutral tint. Just kind of gathering colors so I can pick them up. All right, so I'm going to grab some of this Van Dyke brown. And there's this section up here. Okay. And above this wrinkle here, he's also got more of a black part of his skin. So there's kind of a strong wrinkle. Let's see if I'm getting the right one here. It kind of goes across his nose like here. Blend that one up. And then above it, he's got just skin before it gets to this hairy area that is dark. And there's a lighter wrinkle coming like over here. He's kind of got hair going on here. He's got this hair. That hair is going to blend into that. Drop in a little more of this dark color. And over here, it's part of this wrinkle, which we can define a little better. Then he's got a pink area up here. So if I put a little pink in there, you can have that nice pink skin. Let's see, I'm going to get an even tinier brush to mess with these wrinkles some more. This is a 0. I just want to add a little bit more dark to them. I want them to show a little more. Now I can come back with my number 2. And I can sort of just ease those lines out just a bit, because I don't want them to be too sharp. But using the 0 instead of a 2 kept my lines tinier, which makes them easier. You know, you didn't put too much paint down, which is helpful. Okay. So, coming on back to the hair, he's got this little swatch of hair here, and then he's got some dark hair coming up onto his ear, this hair in the middle, it's not white. It's sort of a tannish color. So I'm going to pull a little bit of my Van Dyke Brown and a little bit of my Burnt Sienna together. And it's really a very watery mixture of the two because I don't want anything too dark yet. And I'm going to pull that in the direction that the hair is going, which is this way, to create some hair here for him. And I could come back with some more of those dark hairs and put some more on top of that. Jeez. Scared me.
I bonked it on accident.
I was like, whoa!
Trying to bonk it on the ground and get like half the grass stuck to it off.
I see.
So I did the inside and the outside by the charger.
Mm-hmm.
There's the food bowl up and stuff. And now there's a path from the food bowl to the front of the chicken coop. It's like this wide. It's just me going all the way to the chicken coop.
I see.
It's really hard to see. If you look at it, there's not a massive low path going through the field.
Right.
Very hard to spot. And the chicken coop, that's clear.
Okay, thank you. Never a dull moment around here.
Now shower and lots of email looking at.
Alright, let's see. This side of his face.
Gosh, there was the first one I pulled up that video was one of the president of the school sent down and stuff. It was from the 8th, actually the 7th. He's like, we have this, gosh, probably have to pull it up to see what he called it, but let's see if I can find it because I cannot remember. What do you need?
Dark area here. Mm-hmm. Get my rigger brush back. Where did I put it? I'm really good at losing things that are right in front of me. Oh, rigger brush. Poof. Not there. Not there. Don't know. Okay. Oh, there it is. Woo-hoo. Okay, so let's work with some more Van Dyke Brown. Come up here on this little guy's ear. He's got hair going out here. It's kind of dark. And then it comes up on his ear. And to make the white hairs, the light hairs, you're pulling this down. You want kind of a, you want to be leaving the impression that there are white hairs there, see? By pulling that down, and so that leaves, you're kind of painting in the opposite of what you might think. Okay, and I've got this ear. And he's got all these little hairs that come off the top of his ear. He's a very hairy pig. So make some of these hairs. They get darker as they go down. But again, I'm starting light on this. I'm going to build up some other colors. Alright, I'm going to switch rigger brushes to a 0. Still got this Van Dyke Brown. Going to add in some sepia. It's going to make it a bit darker. Pick that up with my 0. And with a 0, I can make a little bit finer lines, and I want to just look at that picture and go, okay, where is it a little darker? Where do I need to darken the strokes? Some of it is really like black. We'll get there. Create some of these little hairs off his ear. They're cute. And there's like a rim here, like actually a line where his ear, it's like the top of his ear. Looks a little funny to have a line there, but it really is in the picture. And if there's one thing I could advise, it's paint what you see. If you see a line there, paint it. If that's darker, paint it. For the most part, if you paint what you see, it won't steer you wrong. It's when you start going, well, this is an eyeball, so I'm going to just paint an eyeball. And then you mess it up because you forgot to keep an eye out and paint what you see. All right. So on that section of the ear, it's more of a black. So pulling neutral tint, and I'm going to put some darker color on that section. And mix some of that neutral tint into my sepia mixture here. Very rarely is fur like one color. Almost all the time fur has other colors mixed into it. And so you really kind of have to look and go, okay, I need some layers of this and some layers of that. And as you layer it on, eventually you get to what you want. I'd also state that for this particular pig, I'm not painting him for anybody.
One of the options for this just sounds weird. It's like, you have to be fully web-based or on campus. Or half the class gets to do web-based and the other half gets to be there. And then the next time the class is there, the other half comes and the other half has to do it online.
Oh,
I was like, that sounds like a pain if you're going to make them do that.
Which class is this for?
It's not for any, it's just looking through the what you can expect in the fall semester of 2020. And that is one of the class options. And I was like, does not sound fun.
Aiden has one where half the class is meeting on one of the class days and then the other half is meeting on the other class day. So they only meet once a week instead of the twice a week.
It's basically that, except the other half is watching.
Yeah. Oh man, it's life in 2020.
This is ridiculous. It's the best practice for classroom paper exchange. Students should place paperwork in an open folder on the desk in their classroom. Students will then close the folder. Instructors will wait 24 hours before handing the envelope and the papers to grade. This is considered lower risk for transmission of the virus. Instructors should remember to avoid touching their mouth, nose, or eyes regularly and use the hand sanitizer while reviewing papers. It's like, here's my work, leave it on the desk. See, you can pick it up in 24 hours. What if you need to use that classroom again? It's just like, well, I feel like that means that classroom is available for that class and that class alone.
I don't know. Could be.
If you have to leave it there and then they can't touch it for 24 hours, that means that room is now unavailable for 24 hours.
Right.
Yikes, unless they just carry the desks off somewhere and they're like, we'll keep them here. You have to do the wellness screening every time you come to campus, even if it's on the same day.
Awesome.
At least it's something you can do yourself. It's just on their website and you go through it and it gives you a verification check mark and then you just show it, either screenshot or print out, whatever you prefer, and then show it to them and boom. They're like, okay, you're cool, go. Sounds annoying. I have to say, the only different thing that I don't like about the no Wednesday class means I can't take any time on Wednesday to like look around at where my classes will be for Thursday.
Right.
Severely limits that, because now I have to like look at them and be like, okay, I think this is roughly where this is, so...
You could just plan to be there
early. Yeah.
early and find all of your classes before any of them start. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get there like 20 minutes early or 30 minutes early and just go find all of your classes.
Yeah. So I have to find 3 of them. I forget, does the Thursday, does it go animal science, English, math? Or animal science, math,
You
English?
need to look at your schedule.
The what?
Look at your schedule.
Uh-huh.
Should be on momentum.
Should. Oh, my phone is 5%. Should probably put it on the charger.
Everybody's getting to hear all of Alex's woes today. I'm telling you, you get extra watching me paint because I can never manage to just paint in peace. That never happens. Okay, so as I'm making fur like this, you see how it's like just a bunch of streaks of stuff. I want to make sure that they're going random ways. Sometimes they're crossing. They're not all just the same because fur is never just all one way. I do also pay attention to how it is on the creature. So this pig has some darker color going up this way, and particularly around the ear. So I'm putting that in. And once I've made all these weird little streaks, I come back, I get a clean brush, and I'm gonna kind of go over some of it. Let those colors blend together. I don't want to lose all of that texture that I put in.
Funny, I can't
But I
actually
do
open any of my
want to
classes on
smooth it
momentum
some.
until the 19th.
I see.
They have the pages locked until then. It
Does
says
it-
we'll open on.
Does it show the schedule?
No, it just shows the classes.
I see.
Here.
I believe you. I'm just asking.
I just want to see if I'm missing something because I don't think I am. So I got that is open, but that's not a class. This is just.
Okay. So go into RadarNet, not into Momentum, and somewhere in there there's a thing that says class schedule. And that'll surely have what you need.
Is it 3 pigs?
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Very hairy pigs. They're not little pink pigs. They're fuzzy pigs.
I see.
In that lighter section, I'm doing somewhat the same, putting in these darker spots, and then I usually go back with just a wet brush, clean wet brush, and I'm going to kind of brush some of that out. Again, you don't want to lose it all, but you want to smooth some of that texture. Looks more real. Okay. There's this little section up here I need to do because it looks weird. He's got white up here, but without me putting in some not white, you almost can't tell that there was anything there. But once I come back in and put some shadowy stuff, you're like, oh, that's another hair. You're like, okay, I'm with you now. And let's see, I feel like this is too abrupt. So let's put some little hairs there too. A few hairs coming into this little tuft that he's got going on. Okay. All right. I'm ready for a break again. All right, back to it. So let's see here. I think this time I will work on this ear here. So this ear is pink. It's particularly pink in this area here. And blend all that in. Now it's got this dark area in here. It's interesting. It's like it comes, here's this line, comes down, and then it's gonna make a little crease out there. So what I want to do is blend that out so that it looks like a crease in the ear and not like just a line. It will by the time I'm done. Okay, so I'm looking at this part, and I want it dark, but I almost want some of this pink in here too. So it comes up and out just a little bit, and that gets blended down like that. And then there's another line right there, but I'm gonna have to wait till that dries before I can really work that in. And I'm seeing that there's actually, the ear actually goes farther up here with dark, but then there's hair kind of coming over that hole. So I think what I'm gonna do in this case is I'm gonna go ahead and put that in. Okay, so it's actually up here, and it's coming, like we have this rim of the ear. And then this dark area is going down. But what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to come back with some gouache, and I'm going to put the hair in that I'm seeing. I'll show you what I'm looking at in the picture here. You see there's this dark part of the ear that I started to put in, but the ear actually has darkness up here, but then there's this wave of hair going over it. So I'm going to plan to just come back with gouache and put in that hair that's coming down. That way I can go ahead and put in this darkness of the inside of the ear, and I can just fix it later with the gouache. Okay, then there was this next little dark area. here. Yeah, here. And blend that out. And there's another kind of dark area up there, and then there's another crease coming down this way. It's not very deep of a crease though. So it's kind of like that. And I'm going to blend that one up. Okay. This one actually kind of carries out to the edge of the ear. You don't want to lose the pink though, so come back in there with some pink. I'm going to pink up some of these areas. Okay. Now, even in these outer edges, there's still some pinkness there. Going to be a definite need for some gouache on this ear, which is fine. Kind of edging it a little bit, because to me it looks like the edge of the ear just has a little bit of darkness to it, so I'm laying in some color and then I'll blend that out. I see that on this top one too. So this one I'm wetting it first and then just going along the edge with some color. It's almost like it's got some little spots on this top of the ear. So dropping in a little bit of a spot. Okay. Now, planning to make hairs all over this top part of the ear, so I'm not too worried about it beyond this point because we're going to be covering up a whole lot of that part of the ear. But I do want this deep part of the ear to read as like deep. So still putting in a little bit more darkness there. I'm going to come back with the number 2 and use that to blend. Something to remember, there are rarely, in nature, in animals, there are very few things that you're going to have just a solid line on. Solid lines that are not blended out at all just don't really exist. That's why if you try to draw like a nose, you actually draw in the nostrils and the sides of it, the sides of the nose, it looks wrong because all of that is just about shading, and that shading is important. It's what makes it look real. without it, you have a cartoon. All right, so I want that to read as depth in the ear, like the ear goes in. I'm not sure if we're there yet. There's also just kind of some shadow going on here. And I think these little lines are just still a little too pronounced, so I'm gonna blend them in a bit. And let's see, this tip of the ear here, it's also gonna get hairs on it, but it has that kind of shaded edge too, so I'm gonna drop a little color on the edge. Okay. Now I can look at it and see his ear. That actually looks like an ear, so that's good. This eye, I want to go ahead and put in this eye. Now, normally I take a ton of time on eyes, like I'll spend forever on eyes, but in this particular painting, all of their eyes are closed, which means it's going to go a whole lot faster. So all I want to do here is I'm going to give it a line where I've already drawn that in. And then I'm going to come back and on the underside of it, I am shading it a bit. Okay, and I'm seeing on this picture, there's kind of like a spot here and a little spot here. These are just like spots on the pig. And then up in here, he's got a couple little spots. Okay. And most of the time, this area where the eye is kind of in a little bit. You can't see it too much on here, but it's, yeah, somewhat in. So a little bit of shading helps with that. But I did already put some of that there. We're going to be putting hair up around here too. Putting some of that out. Okay. All right, I'm going to get my rigger brush and I'm going to add some more hair to this guy. Let's see. Add a few colors to my palette. Got some Van Dyke Brown I'm sticking in here. Put a little more of this burnt sienna down here. I still have some of my peachy pink. I'll pull anything else as I need it. Okay. So I want to kind of look at this section and add hair as needed. So I see in this area, okay, he's got hairs coming off to the side, kind of shorter hairs coming out of that black snouty area. And there are even some hairs, little random hairs on top of that little black snouty area. I may have to come in with some gouache also on that area so that I can get those in there. going to be a good bit of gouache on this painting. So he's got kind of a dark line here. And some of these ones coming up out of here have some darkness to them too. So I'm going to go ahead and put in some of those just a little darker. And this side too. All right. And got some coming from over here, around this way. All right, I'm going to lighten up what I'm working with, and I'm going to pull back to that really pale kind of wash. Okay, and now there's a bunch of hairs that are coming down this way. Okay, they're fairly long hairs, so like that, and the ones that are past the ear are mainly going down like that. It's got hairs that are coming from here too that are light. I think those are going to be coming. I'm doomed to put gouache on this painting. That's okay. It's okay. He's got hairs coming down here. And these are all starting to move this direction. Like that. Okay, now this area under the ear, we need some shading there first because it is, the ear is casting a shadow. And so I'm just going to take some light moon glow and I'm going to come in here under this ear. And I'm going to create the shadow, and it actually goes right up the side of the ear here too. And then I'm going to spread that down. This. Let's see. Doesn't really go behind over here because there's these little white hairs coming off, which are going to have to be gouache. That's all right. Okay, so we've got that shading there, and now I'm going to go over some of these places with the hairs, and I want to blend out some of that texture so that I still see it, but I don't want to see quite so much of it. I want it to blend a little bit and kind of, to some extent, blend in. right, now this section of the pig, I'm not going to spend nearly as much time on as I did on this part of the pig. In fact, I'm still not done with this part of the pig. It's still going to need some more work. I'm going to put some more color here and in here, but I want this part to dry that I just messed with, so I'm going to work on this part of the pig. But just know we're going to do a lot faster detailing on this back part. So he's got a bunch of color here. It's not really sticking up as much as it was on the top of the pig, but I'm going to leave the edges a little furry because I feel like it looks more real that way. Okay, and I'm going to just put a bunch of color in here with the brown. I want some of it to kind of go up into that. You don't want it to look like there's like a line there because that'll look really fake. So I'm just going to color in, and I've got some areas that keep more of the white, so I want to make sure I don't totally lighten it up too much. Pulling down a little more burnt sienna, a little more Van Dyke brown, and then I'm adding a little sepia to make my brown a little darker. Picking up some more of that brown, and I'm going to work this area some more. I think one of the hardest things with doing fur textures, for some people at least, is that it has to be somewhat random. If you keep all of your strokes going the same direction, then it does not look like fur when you're done. In this guy's case, I want him to have kind of like spots where he's almost brindled in this fur. So I want to have spots that look more brown and spots that look more black. And then I also want to leave some that are going to read as white. I don't want them stark white like the white of the paper, but like these parts on him, I want it more natural looking, so it ends up actually being more of a beigey brown or a gray brown. All right, I'm going to add in some black sections in this fur. And again, I don't want it all black, so put some in, but not everywhere. Okay, now if you remember, next step is I take my wet brush, which I don't want to be like dripping wet, and I come back and I blend out some of the texture. So I come back in here and I go, ooh. I'm avoiding that part that's really wet of the black right now, because I'll lose all the texture there if I touch it right now. Okay, and I got that section. Now I'm just going to repeat that in the next area. So again, kind of paying attention to how the hair falls on this guy. He's got a whitish spot there. And then this hair is mainly coming like across the body like this. So bringing that down, and we'll leave him a white-ish spot right there too. The rest of this down to there is pretty well brown and black. Alright, get some more sepia in here. I'm going to darken some of this up. But remember to darken some of it, but not all of it. Okay, you don't just want to uniformly go over everything. You're giving some areas brown, some areas white, some areas black. This is going to give your pig a more natural look. I just realized that was actually the other pig's ear, right? I think I can still work it in there. Sorry, distracted. Okay. So putting in more brown. And now I'm going to get some more black, which I'm actually using neutral tint for my black. Should know how this goes. I'm gonna go back with a wet brush. And I'm gonna blend out some of that texture. I can always go back and put in more texture lines if I'm like, oh, I wanted some more of that furry texture and I just lost it. That's okay. You can put it back in. Right. And now I've got these, I've got a spot here on his rump and then white and a spot here. So again, I'm doing the same thing that we've been doing. Starting with some brown. I'm gonna work both these sections at once. And see, I've got this outline showing, and it's a white area. It's okay. I'm going to put a little bit of color on it. If I didn't want a little bit of color on it, then I would probably want some background behind it so that it blended in a little more. Put some sepia in there. I'm not particularly worrying about like exactly where all of this pig's browns and blacks are. I'm going for the general idea. If I was painting a pet portrait and this was somebody's personal pig and they wanted me to paint their personal pig like exactly as he was, then I would need to really pay attention to like, okay, he's black here and he's brown here. And when I made my outline, I probably would have very carefully outlined exactly where all of his little markings are. But I am not doing that, so I don't care. And I'm just kind of putting them where it works for me. Giving him the color that I like. Make him look cute, and we're good. He's a piggy. I like the piggy. Okay, we still have this little section that needs some attention. And I will most likely come back and do more details over a lot of this pig. But for the time being, I might move on to the next pig. I want to sort of create a little more of a detailed look to this eye, even though you can't see an eyeball here. He does have little tiny eyelashes, which we will bring in with gouache. He's also got these tiny little hairs coming in here. Okay. Now, over here, he's got like these long hairs that come out of his ear. These totally have to be gouache because there's just no freaking way of doing it otherwise. Okay, there may be for some people, but I'm not that talented. I can do it with gouache, so. Okay, he's got these areas where his hair just kind of goes all together. Okay, so we get to this. We've got this really dark section here, and basically as I'm looking at it, it's like there's a, I think he's got like his little hoof sitting down in there. This is his, like his hoof there, and this is a wattle, which is like a little flap of skin that hangs underneath their chin. So I want to make it look furry, and I'll probably come back with gouache again and put some extra furriness in there to that. But this, I'm going to make a dark shadow. Here. Here. Okay, that's like deep shadow. And we'll bring it out like this under the wattle and connect it to this shadow over here. Now, this area here also is darker up here because it's like a round hoof kind of thing. And there's darkness at that seam there. And down here. I probably need to let that dry before I can do anything with that though. I want to make it look rounded. Okay, but this part of this chin here is also darker in there.
There you are.
Here I
There's
am.
an agitated spot on my lip that hasn't been going away. Do you see what it is? There's like a weird agitated spot there.
I don't know what your weird agitated spot is.
I think it's weird, but it's very light compared to the rest of my lip.
Yeah.
I'm really confused about.
I don't know. Alright, gotta let that dry a little more before I can really do anything with it. There's a definite darker area over here. Particularly down here where the ear causes a shadow. Okay. That's starting to look more 3D. Right. Let's see. While I'm waiting on that to dry, I pick up this, and there's really like this even darker line coming out here. Okay.
Greetings, human.
Greetings. So to make this little waddle look like it's under the body, we need it to also have a dark section up here, and then trail that out. Probably needs to be even darker than that, just at the middle.
According to me, this white agitated spot will become radioactive in 5 days and will explode in 10. And the whole world will explode. Because
Okay.
the explosion will be so crazy.
Good to know. Alright, so this, we want a round looking, like a ball. So these two edges are going to need to be darker, and we're going to pull them into the middle like that, with the middle staying lighter, like so. I think the bottom can even blend a little more into that shadow. All right,